What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Saturday edition of the first pre-lock show of the day here on RotoGrinders. We've got two NFL games for you today, with the first one featuring the Las Vegas Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans facing off in what amounts to the first playoff game of the year, with the AFC South title on the line in Jacksonville tonight. So we'll have you covered for the two games here at RotoGrinders, and we'll start with this first one here. We know a lot of you are probably building lineups for the two-game slate on DraftKings and on FanDuel. So we'll kind of lend our analysis to both games here on this show, and we'll provide a few showdown thoughts too for those of you who are building lineups specifically for just this Vegas versus KC game. But given the size of the prize pools, I'm sure most people are building for the two-game slate. I am Justin Van Zuiden, aka STL Cardinals 84. Got Tim Buell alongside as well. Tim, how you doing this afternoon?
Good. Watched a little bit of some golf, some early golf action, a little college basketball today. So it's been a fun-filled day of sports already, and now we got NFL. So it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, I'm always anxious. I'm a big golf guy, and I'm always anxious for golf to start back up after the December break, and my rosters are horrible this week. So, maybe I should have wished for an extra week off, but that's okay. Sometimes that happens. Getting back in the swing of things, and a busy time on the sports calendar with the playoffs coming up in the NFL. Of course, NBA regular season in full swing, NHL regular season in full swing. Tim's involved on our NHL projection side. Golf is getting rolling and will basically be every week for the next 8 months. Check us out over at rotogrinders.com. Our premium tools can help keep you up to the latest updates with all of the sports that are going on right now. So we'll focus on the NFL here today, though, for this show, and we'll take your questions if any of you have them in the YouTube chat. And as I mentioned off the top, we've got two games here. We've got the Chiefs and the Raiders. About a 52-point total in this game, with the Chiefs favored by about 10. How do you see this game playing out this afternoon? Are the Raiders going to show up focused, motivated? The Chiefs can lock up the number one seed with a win, so certainly they will be going all out to try to get that bye. How do you see this game playing out here this afternoon?
Yeah, I think that the Raiders come out motivated. I think this is a rivalry game, and I think that they'll play with some pride. Obviously, I think Kansas City's gonna win the game, but I don't know if it's gonna be like an absolute blowout. I don't really anticipate any kind of like shenanigans. Like, I think the players are gonna play. I don't think that there's gonna be any kind of like pulling starters or anything like that. So I think I'm gonna trust our projections and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the Raiders can hang around in this game. Kind of with you. Don't expect them to win. EO in the YouTube chat is asking, should we stack 5 Chiefs and 1 Raider in the showdown contest? I don't think you necessarily have to do that. I mean, again, I expect the Raiders to keep this competitive. You're not going to be able to fit all the kind of priority Kansas City players into any given lineup. So, I don't think you necessarily need to go that heavy on the Chiefs unless you personally think it's going to be, a blowout 34-6 or something like that. But no special stacking rules on my end. Maybe lean a little bit towards some Chiefs exposure. But
if you do want to go 5-1 Kansas City, I wouldn't one-off Devontae Adams, because I feel like that could be like a situation where you get duped. So maybe go for like a one-off of like a Darren Waller or something like that. But just be very careful if you do decide to do that 5-1, because I think that could, not that it's going to be super popular, but just be kind of conscious of what you're doing if you build a lineup like that.
all right, so I'm going to bring up the screen share with both games on it again, because I know a lot of you are probably building lineups for both games, and then we can kind of do a little hybrid analysis here. But if you have questions specifically related to the showdown, feel free to ask them. And so I've got DraftKings open now. We start at quarterback, and our ownership has kind of trended about the same throughout the day. Patrick Mahomes projecting at 40% ownership. Certainly he'll be really, really highly owned on the showdown slate as well, with Kansas City projected for 30 points in this game. How do we handle kind of the fact that there's maybe one top tier spend up play at every position with Henry and with Adams and with Kelsey at the other positions, and not being able to fit all of them into the same lineup? Do we need to prioritize Patrick Mahomes here?
I don't think so. I think if there's one expensive option that we can fade, it'd actually be Mahomes. Yeah, I'm looking at our DraftKings Saturday slate smash percentage and range of outcomes page right now, and Patrick Mahomes, quarterbacks don't have like a very very high smash percentage, but they do have like a good value rating. So it's not. I don't think quarterback is a position where you necessarily have to spend all the way up on. So I'd much rather take the savings and go to Stidham or Lawrence.
Yeah, you do get a good amount of savings with those other options there. On DraftKings, Lawrence saves you 2,300. Stidham saves you 3K. Stidham coming off a solid performance last week for the Raiders, and Kansas City's defense definitely beatable. You look at potential game flow. Maybe the Raiders are behind and they have to throw. That Stidham's going to project well. And in fact, if we sort by point per dollar projections here on DraftKings, Stidham actually grades out as the highest point per dollar quarterback, which, I mean, is always generally going to be the cheap guys rising to the top of that, but just shows that he projects fairly well. So, Stidham, Lawrence, Mahomes are probably the three guys I'll mix and match. Dobbs, projects quite a ways below the others, and if you're playing the 2-game slate, he would basically be, a guy that maybe throw in some GPP lineups, but they're going to try to rely on Derrick Henry tonight as much as possible. So, any other quarterback thoughts for you?
No, I'm with you. I think Dobbs is. I would even borderline X him out, even like if I'm making even 20 or more teams. I think I would exclude him.
Yeah, no reason to prioritize him on my end either. All right, let's talk running backs, and these are teams that generally we know where the touches are going to go. The Vegas has used Josh Jacobs heavily. The Chiefs have used Pacheco on pretty much all the early downs. McKinnon has been tearing it up in the passing game. And then in the late game, you're going to have Etienne and you're going to have Henry getting a good chunk of touches. And Jacobs was listed questionable. We do have confirmation, with that being the game that starts here in about 25 minutes, that he is good to go. So Jacobs is active today. And everybody else below him, I mean, you're basically projected under 5 points. Zamir White has a little bit of a projection. Hasty has a little bit of a projection, but not a whole lot of cheap value here. So, I mean, if we're not playing Mahomes, stands to reason, I think, that in your 2-game slate lineups, you got to try to fit Henry in there. What are you doing at running back?
Yeah, this is really the primary reason why I don't want to play Mahomes, is because I want to prioritize Derrick Henry. So I think that he's the chalk that I'm going to eat. We have him reaching value about 65% of the time, smash rating of about 25%, which is the second highest on this 2-game slate for DraftKings. So, I think that all the simulations say that he's a good play, and I know that I'll be kind of going with the field, but I think that he's a good shot today.
Yeah, tough to see him completely flopping. I mean, the Titans are not shy about giving him a huge workload when they haven't had Tannehill in games and they've been competitive. They'll give him 25, 30 touches. You go back earlier in the year, he had a couple 28, 30, 32 carry games, another 28 carry game against Green Bay, 23 last week, 21 the week before. So he's going to get the ball plenty. And even as chalk at a thin position, it's kind of hard to fade him. I think Henry and Etienne there in the late game will be popular options. Where do you stand on Jacobs? I guess with him being active, his ownership has kind of crept up a little bit. I know, we're both a little skeptical on McKinnon because he's kind of been producing over his head, if you want to say, on the good side of variance here the last month or so. But how about the running backs here in this early game?
Yeah, I would rate Pacheco as my favorite. Uh, then McKinnon. No, then Jacobs and then McKinnon. But I'm not a fan of McKinnon or Jacobs today. If anything, if I'm going to be fading Mahomes, I'm hoping that Pacheco kind of carries the load a little bit, and they don't need the receptions from McKinnon. So I think honestly, Pacheco would be my favorite running back out of this early group.
Yeah, I've got no problem using him either. McKinnon, as we mentioned, kind of been playing over his head, and we're both kind of not about wanting to play him as chalk after scoring a bunch of touchdowns. And not that he can't be involved in the passing game; he certainly has shown that. But just tough to see him maintaining the level of production where it's been, kind of the last few weeks. So you can see basically getting no carries in the run game, and what's that? 7 receiving touchdowns in 5 games. Pretty incredible.
That's crazy. I didn't even know it was that high. I knew it was close to that, but I thought it was like 6-4. I didn't realize it was 7-5. That's like he is due for so much progression, and I'm sure he's gonna catch 3 today. But I'm not gonna play him. That's yeah. I don't know.
Well, we've totally rolled ourselves into him having a huge day now. It's definitely going to happen, but that's all right. We'll deal with that when it comes. But if you want to fade Tim and Justin, then McKinnon is your play. It's just in a game where they're favored by 9 points, and the fact that he's getting 4 or 5 targets and scoring a touchdown every week. Eventually, that's not going to happen. We'll see. Hopefully, this is the week, but we'll see how that goes. All right, so I'm with you. We're both kind of off McKinnon and a little higher on Pacheco. All right, let's talk wide receivers here and this slate, and maybe let's talk about these games separately from a wide receiver standpoint. So we'll start with a game here, and you look at the pricing on DraftKings. You've got Davante Adams at 8,800, Juju at 5,400, and then Matt Collins is the next highest priced wide receiver. And the pricing is comparative in Showdown. Basically, Adams is your spend up, and then there's Juju, and then there's like everybody else. So how are we handling this? Do we need to try to get Adams in there? What are your thoughts on the wide receivers here in this first game?
Yeah, so for Showdown, it's a decision, but for the 2 game slate, I mean, it's a decision for both. He's a really, really scary fade for Showdown, but I don't necessarily hate it. It's tough because you want to I want to prioritize Henry. So it's tough to like play both Henry and Adams. I think I'm gonna have to kind of go lower for these Oakland guys and go for like Renfro.
Oakland error.
Las Vegas. Oh my God, Las Vegas. Yeah, Las Vegas, and yeah, I think I'm going to prioritize like Renfro and Hollins, and then Waller. I really like Waller today, so that might be my way to get different, like away from Kelsey, and also a way of getting different for Showdown.
Yeah, and it's with it being tough to fit Mahomes and Kelsey together. You can get the production through one of them. Either play Kelsey and hope he gets such a large target share that he's the guy you need, or play Mahomes and hope he spreads it around a little bit more. But you're trying to get Mahomes, Adams, and Kelsey. It's not really doable on the Showdown slate or the 2-game slate. So playing one of the Chiefs stars plus Adams is probably the way to go in my opinion. Obviously, people were worried about Adams with the quarterback change, but he was arguably one of his best games of the season last week against the Niners. Had that one incredible catch late in regulation. Had 7 for 153 and 2 scores, 11 targets. He'll be just fine. So I would kind of rank my priority in that same fashion. Adams, then maybe Mahomes, and then Kelsey, something like that. And on the Showdown slate where you don't need to play a tight end, that helps as well. So you mentioned Renfro on the low end. I think he makes sense. I think MVS maybe makes a little sense. And these are the plays that are going to kind of make or break this slate. Like it or not, it's these cheap receivers that they're just going to be that's where the differentiation is going to be. That's where the ownership is going to be lower. Which one of these guys finds the end zone? I mean, almost all the pass catchers in the later games are cheap. Outside of, Kirk is maybe slightly expensive, but everyone else is fairly cheap. And for people maybe looking for value receivers on this 2-game slate, I know you like Renfro. I kind of like Marvin Jones. Anybody else that's worth a mention here at the kind of mid-range to value wide receiver group?
Yeah, well, I think we got to talk about Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. Zay Jones is going to be the heaviest owns wide receiver on the 2-game slate. So it's that's going to be a very, very interesting decision point. All you hear about is how Tennessee is a pass funnel. Tennessee is a pass funnel, which they are. They're the worst pass defense in the NFL. So it's kind
And
of
he
like
had 12 targets and a touchdown catch the first time they played. So
yeah. So and I think he's got some sort of player incentives too that can get him like anywhere up to like more like a $500,000 bonus or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but they're within the range of outcomes. I can't remember exactly what the amount of receptions and yardages were that he needed, but there could be a little bit of a narrative there. Just like if you go Lawrence, Zay Jones, something like that, it's going to be a lot of ownership. So it's just tough. Like, I don't know if I want to trust Zay Jones, but at the same time, he's so cheap. The matchup's amazing. But like, if you go Lawrence, Zay Jones, Derrick Henry, that's a lot of aggregate ownership that you'll be eating. So you got to like really kind of spread out your exposures to some more high variance plays, I think, if you're going to build a team like that.
yeah, that's why I like maybe the idea of going to Marvin Jones instead or something in your tournament builds, get some leverage if the targets go there. Maybe you decide you want to go all in on Kirk or something like that. But those are the guys, uncomfortable or not. If it's Marvin Jones that gets a touchdown and Zay Jones has 2 catches for 25 yards, well then it could make a big difference in the standings in terms of these contests. So keep that in mind as you go through finalizing your lineups here in the next 12 minutes or so. All right, let's talk tight end. Kelsey is obviously the top guy, but he is 7,900 on DraftKings for the 2-game slate. That is $3,400 more than any of the other tight ends. He's just hard to fit especially if you like Henry, like we both do. So it kind of just becomes, whether it's Ingram or Waller as the pivot. That price is going to necessitate for a lot of my builds, but is there a guy you like better out of Ingram, Waller, or maybe somebody else available here?
I like Waller. Waller's my guy today. I will say though, it's not like I don't like Kelsey. He has a higher smash percentage than Derrick Henry does for the slate, so it's definitely a really, really scary fade. I just know that I really can't realistically play Mahomes and Kelsey. So I think that you could maybe just pay all the way down for Steedham, and then like go Henry Kelsey, something like that a build like that. So you get the 2 highest smash percentage players on the same team, and then fill it in with like some cheap, Las Vegas wide receivers, something like that. Like you could do that, but if you don't want to play Kelsey, I think Waller's the guy.
Yeah, I don't mind Waller or Ingram. Certainly have plenty of them myself. Obviously Waller seems healthy again. He did score last week, and it's been kind of a lost year for him. But when healthy, one of the best pass catching tight ends in the league. So we'll have some Waller in my lineups too. All right, let's talk defense, and then we can get over to FanDuel again. The Chiefs have struggled defensively, even in good matchups. So, and everybody kind of gets carried away about points allowed, so that's going to have like nobody on the Raiders. I know when we did the show earlier, the taping for the in the morning for everyone, we talked about the Raiders are 2,200 on DraftKings, their min salary on FanDuel, but the defense's scoring is so variant that one touchdown or a couple turnovers could easily make you the highest scoring defense. So really on a 2-game slate, anybody's in play. I know you talked about the theory behind playing players against your defense too. So, what are your thoughts on defense here?
Yeah, I don't really have that much to say about defense. Play who fits. In a vacuum, probably the Jaguars are the best. But if you don't have the money, like every dollar is really going to matter on this slate. So if you don't have the money, you can play the Raiders. You can play the Raiders on DK, and you can play the Raiders on FanDuel. It's not a big deal. You also, I don't mind playing the Titans. Like if they're going to be a pass funnel, Lawrence could throw a pick six, and then all of a sudden, Lawrence is back on the field. So you can play Lawrence with your popular Jags wide receivers, and then as a little bit of leverage, you can play the Titans D. It's a way to possibly build your teams a little bit differently.
Yeah, don't mind that, and I would, if I'm building a bunch of lineups, I would keep all 4 of them in my player pool for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, I'll go ahead and pivot this over to FanDuel, hopefully. If you've got some questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We are down to about 9 minutes left until lock. If you're a premium subscriber and you're in the RotoGrinders Discord, you can drop your questions in the NFL premium chat there, and we'll answer those also. So, again, about 8 minutes here until lock of the first game between the Raiders and the Chiefs. The salary cap we're kind of used to over the years, the salary cap being more restrictive on DraftKings than it is on FanDuel. That's not necessarily the case here with the pricing floor, right? A lot of the cheap receivers on FanDuel are in the I gotta reload this, in the 5K range, as opposed to 4K or 3,800 on DraftKings. So that makes it harder to fit in all the top plays on FanDuel because you look at the salaries for, Robert Woods is 5,700, Marvin Jones is 5,500, he's like 3,800 on DK. Renfro, same thing, and he's 5,300 on FanDuel. So makes it harder to get all the studs in. So you're going to see slightly lower ownership on Adams, Kelsey, Henry, and Mahomes compared to where we have them on DraftKings. They're roughly 5 to 10% lower on FanDuel in terms of ownership. Any major differences that you see with how you want to construct a roster on FanDuel versus DraftKings?
No, like we talked about earlier, the big glaring one is Devontae Adams, where he's only coming in at 38% owned on FanDuel, and he's over 50% owned on DK. He's just not as much of a priority. I think that it kind of makes it, like, I agree with what you're saying, but there's so many of these mid-range options, and then I don't have to worry as much about Devontae Adams in this spot. So it's almost like I can feel a little bit more comfortable just hanging out in this mid-range for wide receivers like MVS and Tony and Zay Jones, Juju, like that kind of range is it just feels a little bit more comfortable because I don't have to worry as much about the outcome of Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I think, with only half-point PPR on FanDuel, right? And as I mentioned, if you want to build a lineup with all the studs, Mahomes, let me throw Henry in there, throw Adams in there, throw Kelsey in there, right? You've only got 4,700 per player, and most of the cheap wide receivers are over 5,000. Even if you want to go cheap at running back with a Hasty is 5,300. Zamir White is one of the only guys that's even right around that average per player. So you're not going to be able to fit all those guys together in one lineup. So, like you mentioned, if you leave Adams off, you could do a Mahomes Kelsey build. That's probably doable. Or you could go with Stidham and Adams. And then maybe you can still get Kelsey in there. You're just probably going to have to forego one of the stars for sure on FanDuel here with the way that their salary structure works. There's not a whole lot of differences in pricing, or like in terms of where people are at. The guys, Kirk and Juju are the next receivers behind Adams, and then you got Zay Jones, and it's just that the salary floor and the cap structure is a little bit different on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. In terms of our smash
percentages on FanDuel, it's a little. We still have Kelsey as number one, But then we actually have ETN as number 2, and then Derrick Henry down to 15%, which is 10% lower than he was on DK. So our algos obviously don't like his ceiling as much for FanDuel scoring. So I thought that was a little bit
Yeah, that
interesting to
surprises
know.
me a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit interesting. Just from like a overall perspective. We seem to be liking ETN and Pacheco more on FanDuel, but Kelsey maintains the number 1 spot on both DK and FanDuel in terms of smash percentage.
And with tight end being so weak, maybe you decide you want to play Kelsey and not play Mahomes. That's certainly a viable strategy as well. Again, just hard to fit both of them together in the same lineup. All right, I'm pulling up the Discord here, make sure we don't have any questions. All right, looks like I was reading through some of our projection updates. We have bumped the projection for Kadarius Toney a little bit. Man, it seems like one of the only major updates. If I go to, let me go back to DraftKings here and kind of pull up a showdown build. So we got about 4 minutes to lock. I don't see any other questions, so I am going to pull this up. Oh no, computer's lagging behind my tapping the screen. All right. So again, the salary structure is largely the same in the showdown slate. If you want to play Mahomes at captain, and you want to play Kelsey, and you want to play Adams, all right, you've only got $3,000 left for your remaining spots in showdown. Which, even a kicker, Butker is $4K, so now you're down to $2,550. The Raiders' defense is $3,200. I mean, you just got to get the complete punts. So here is the question, like these secondary running backs for the Raiders, like Zamir White, I mean, he's $200. Is he a guy that you would play in showdown to get a lineup maybe that has Mahomes, Kelsey, and Adams in it together?
Yeah, I think it's worth a shot. Like he'll probably get a few carries. I've heard some speculation about Josh Jacobs maybe not wanting to, really participate in this game. I think most of that's noise, but if it's not, then I think that Zamir White could end up, maybe getting a couple carries.
Yeah, and they could, play him for a half. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into what he might have, for incentives or anything like that. But I mean, I'm not putting a ton of stock into the injury simply because Jacobs has been listed questionable for like 5 straight weeks now.
Yeah, it's not the injury. Like he missed practice due to a personal reason. His father had heart surgery, so he's back, but he's back with the team and he will play. I've just kind of been hearing a little bit of chatter that he might not get his full workload, but again, I don't know if that's true. So, but in terms of showdown, you want to embrace that variance. So I have no issue with going to Zamir White.
Yeah, totally fine with that in showdown, and White would be my pick over, Bolden, who I believe is active, and Abdullah, who we have projected a little higher, but he's also 2,600. So that is tough. It's definitely White if you are looking to play one of them. It's a little less appealing on the full 2-game slate, but definitely has some appeal at $200 in the showdown. And you can see how I built this lineup with the 3 studs. I've got enough salary to fit MVS or Renfro or the Chiefs defense in as my last player. So that $200 salary tag does have some value in the showdown builds on DraftKings. Once again, you don't get that salary floor on FanDuel, so it's tougher to make it fit over there. All right, so we've got like 30 seconds left here until lock. Make sure you get these lineups finalized. By the time this comes across your screen, we probably will be right at lock. So Tim, any last thoughts for you before we get ready to watch some football here?
No, good luck, guys, and it's gonna be a fun way to start the weekend. It's gonna be playoffs here soon, so I'm excited.
Absolutely. Will be a fun way to start the weekend, and we've got more action tonight, obviously, with the Jaguars and Titans. Pretty big showdown contest for that as well. Britt and TJ and will have you posted, keep you posted on the updates for that one, and that we'll be doing a hybrid NBA NFL show because the NBA lock is a little bit later tonight as well. So NBA and NFL content coming your way. Britt, TJ, and Will. That'll be starting around 7:30 Eastern Time with the NBA lock at 8, and I believe the second NFL game locks at 8:15 Eastern Time. So, but Tim and I, we've done 2 shows here already today, so we'll check out for the rest of the day. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon and evening, everyone. Thanks to Tim for joining me. I'm Justin. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes for us as well. And we wish you all the best of luck in your contests. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.